don't get caught up on where you want to go. Just focus on where you're at right there, right? And what you're doing in the moment, what you're doing, it kind of will define where to go and take that path. And don't feel like, hey, if I don't achieve these milestones on my timeline and I don't get this degree at this time, or this is the degree I should be doing, don't get caught up in that.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Josh, it is fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. How are you?
I'm doing great. Are you fantastic? Because this is the last episode of the Attraction Pros podcast in 2021.
I'm glad you added the in 2021. That would have made me really sad if this was the last podcast ever.
And that's how I was telling you that's it.
Right, yeah. No, I am fantastic because we get to do another podcast, and because of our guest today. Our guest is Phil Wilson from Extreme Engineering.
It sure is. And we get to learn how the name Extreme Engineering came to be, as well as the history of the company, Phil's involvement with the company since its inception in 1995, where he was 15 years old and immediately started working in the business that his father started. And we get to hear about the whole journey from 1995 to today of the dynamics of working in a family business and how Phil is very passionate about the challenges and overcoming those challenges and helping others in the attractions industry do the same, as well as the innovative ride designs that they have come up with for the industry. The Cloud Coaster, he talks about their climbing wall, which they say they bring the mountain to the people, which is really cool to hear his philosophy around all that. And talking about just the whole journey, his personal career path and the amount of times he's changed majors, and that it's about enjoying the ride, and it's the journey, not just the destination.
So you used a word 3 times in the last little bit of things you just said, which I think encapsulates so much of this podcast, this interview, and it's the word journey. Because he does talk a lot about the journey that he and his father and his family have gone through. Like you said, the fact that he's changed majors 4 times, and talking about the journey and what he's learned over that time and what advice he has also for young professionals in the industry. I think so often, and I know I've talked to people like this, the young professionals are thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to have a goal. I've got to know exactly where I'm going. And Phil says, no, you've got to enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride. So I think that's a word that I take away from this interview and this conversation, that we've got to enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's cool to hear his thoughts around that from him personally, and like you said, the advice that he has for young professionals, or really for anybody, because we're all just on the journey, just all of us at different points along the way. So it's important, it's encouraging, it's insightful. He has a very optimistic outlook for the industry for 2022, and all around just I would say one of the most interesting people from a personality standpoint that we've had on the podcast. So I'm really excited to get to this interview.
So should we continue the journey that we've started 2 or 3 minutes ago and continue this conversation with Phil?
Yes, I am extremely excited to get to this interview with Phil Wilson.
Phil Wilson, thank you so much for joining us today on the Attraction Pros podcast. How you doing, Phil?
I'm great, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year again, Matt and Josh.
Well,
wonderful to see you guys.
Great to see you. And again, don't forget about Happy Festivus, which is coming up in a couple.
That's right.
Yes. So Phil, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your history with Extreme Engineering?
Yeah, absolutely. So Extreme Engineering was a company founded in 1995 from my father and I. And I actually started with my dad at the age of 15. And my dad has a background. He has an aeronautical degree and mechanical engineering degree. And back in the beginning of extreme engineering, it wasn't something that actually was created on purpose. We kind of stumbled into the amusement industry, pure accident. And our first product we invented was the mobile climbing wall. Not sure if you guys seen those. I'm sure you have on trailers at Ray's. And then he invented the auto belay device. That was the very first product. And it was kind of sparked from the liking of extreme sports that my father and I kind of loved doing together as father and son. We would mountain bike a lot. We would whitewater kayak literally down to our neighbor's house. We lived on the river growing up. So we would literally whitewater kayak down to the neighbor's house, and he shuttles back to our house. Was pretty cool. And then rock climbing became one of our things we kind of got a liking to. And Dad was like, how cool would it be if we could bring climbing to the people instead of bring people to the mountain? And so he came up with this concept and in the 90s, and we decided to go to the outdoor retailer show thinking, yeah, we'll sell them the climbers and gyms, and it was literally laughed out of the parking lot. We got put out in the parking lot. We had a booth secured. We had a space with a company called Entrepreneur at the time, and we thought we had this booth secured and we were going to go in and debut this great product. And unfortunately, things didn't go the way that we thought were planned. And we go out in the parking lot, feel defeated. And this guy comes up to my father and brings him a cup of coffee and sees my dad down the dumps and goes, "Hey, what's going on?" My dad tells him what happened. He goes, "That is not okay. That's unacceptable." So he got a towing truck and he brought it into the parking lot in front of the convention center. This was in Salt Lake City. And he moved 25 cars in front of the main entrance. And then he moved our climbing wall right to the front entrance, raised it. And we had the best spot right in front of the convention center. And we sold the very first mobile climbing wall in 1996 in Salt Lake. And when they went to write us the check, we didn't have a business. We didn't have a LLC form, nothing. And so they go, "So what's the check out?" My dad goes, "Extreme Engineering." And so that was the name of the company. It wasn't like we brainstormed and then, actually it was a great name on the spot. He came up with a pretty good name. And so here we are 26 years later, a much different company than we were then. But that was the inception of who we are. And then myself, I've been working with Dad full time, like I said, since 1995. So this will be my 26th year in the industry. I've been on the trade show floor as a kid to, now in my 40s. And I'm now the executive vice president of the company. And I oversee all the brand initiatives, global marketing, strategic partnerships, and also come up with a lot of the new product concepts with my father. So certainly not the engineer. I'm not the brains behind that part, but definitely behind the promotion side. So
that's such an interesting story, particularly how the name came to be. To see that spontaneity and then having that stick all those years later. Back in 1995, when the business first started, when I think you said you were about 15 years old or so.
Right.
Was it just naturally assumed that you would join the family business? Was it your decision?
Oh no. My dad looked at me and said, "You will work for Extreme Engineering." So it was not part of the plan. In fact, my dad's plan was, he was an exec at Phillip at the time, making phenomenal money. And, he was on his road to retirement. And at that time, it was in the 2000s. Carly was the new CEO of Hewlett Packard. And I don't know if you guys remember the whole merger with Compaq. It was just a mess. And the whole company really just turned into what it wasn't. And so my dad got out at the right time. I think it was, in fact, he almost had to at that time. And so, he basically took over and he had no employees. It was basically him. And then, me as the son. And my dad has a 2,500 square foot R&D shop on property. So as a kid, I grew up, repairing cars, restoring old 1940 gas pumps from, old gas stations that are actually in our house. It's really cool stuff. So I grew up hands-on, knowing how to do sandblast, powder coating, lathing, milling machine. And so, having that technical ability, Dad's like, "You're getting in here and you're helping us build trailers." So it was literally dad and I welding, painting trailers. I was welding T-nuts, which are like these things that hold climbing holds on the wall. I was doing that for hours on end after school. That was my job after high school. I'd come home, put the weld hat on, and I would do that. He paid me 5 cents a T-nut. So it was like, it took a while to get the dollars, but but it was worth it. At 15, you're like, man, that's gas money. That's a car deposit. So yeah, so that's kind of what I did, is working in the shop. And then as we grew, we rented a little facility, and my dad kind of employed all my best friends out of high school. So we kind of got to goof off, have fun after school, make some money, and we didn't know where it was going to go. We didn't think this was a long-term thing. My dad actually, his whole intention was to sell the intellectual property of the product, get his royalties, and then either go on and do the next thing or design something else. But it ended up being just kind of part of our DNA and our culture and who we are. And dad really started to really enjoy the amusement industry in a big way. So he's like, I want to continue to invent and build and make great things. And Phil, I want you to be here to help promote those things and let's help sell these things. And so that's kind of how we evolved, and again, it was not my intention at all. In fact, I had my own roadmap planned out for me to do my own thing. And really the reason why I stuck through it was my dad's done so much for me in my childhood and through college and me personally. It was like my giving back to my dad, and it made me smile seeing him, achieve his dreams and him be happy. And it really meant a lot for me, so I could do something for my father that was, something that meant so much to him because he's done so much for me. And people always come up and go, well, Phil, gee, you're putting your life on hold, and why aren't you going to do your own thing? Why are you always there for your dad? And I'm like, I thought that, but in the end, it really is what I wanted to do. Seeing my dad be happy and owning his own business and then working for my father made me realize, wow, this is exactly why I'm here. And so, that's why I stuck through it. Now, it's not rainbows and sunshines. That all working for your father is not easy. But it's very rewarding. And when it works, it's quite magical. When a family business works, it's a powerful thing for sure. So.
Well, Phil, I want to get more into the family dynamic in just a minute, but I want to go back just a little bit because in some of our pre-interview discussions, you mentioned that you changed degree, or you changed your career path 4 times, or your degree path 4 times. So many young professionals that I talk to, they're like, well, I've got to be on a path and I've got to stick to it. And I've got to have this goal. And I think you're going to prove that, no, you can kind of move around. So can you talk a little bit about how that
Sure. Yeah. Well, so for all your young audience that attend this podcast or this video interview, don't get caught up on where you want to go. Just focus on where you're at right there, right? And what you're doing in the moment, what you're doing, it kind of will define where to go and take that path. And don't feel like, hey, if I don't achieve these milestones on my timeline and I don't get this degree at this time, or this is the degree I should be doing, don't get caught up in that, because you really don't know. In fact, I would say, Josh, Matt, there's probably things you guys are still not knowing what you want to do when you grow up. Like, we're always constantly growing older and going, well, what do I want to do next? Right. So I think life is about just an experience. It isn't about a plan. And of course, having plans is good, and having a degree and going to get that job and that house and getting married. I get those are life plans that people want, but for me, I was so caught up at a young age that, man, I had to get a degree. I have to be like my dad. I want to be an engineer, and then I want to go to a great school like my dad did, and then I want to go work high tech, and that was kind of what I thought, and that put so much immense pressure on me instead of sitting back and really just enjoying the ride at a young, youthful age, and then kind of taking classes and then kind of developing what that could be for me, or what I like doing or what I don't like doing. I was so caught up about where I needed to go instead of what I'm doing right then. And I think that's a big life lesson I learned as I got older, was you can't focus on where you want to go. You got to focus on where you're at today. And what made me change my career path was that very thing. Is I got so caught up that my first degree path was, I'm going to be an aeronautical and mechanical engineer just like my dad, because I want to design like my father. And then I decided, nah, I'm not really good at engineering, but I'm really good at industrial designing. And I think I want to be an industrial designer and make the products look cool. So I started changing my degree to industrial designer. Then I find out that I get accepted to Pasadena School of Arts, and that's $125,000 a year. And you don't actually get a degree in the best industrial designer unless you have your own firm, makes about $45,000 a year. So this is where, a lot of people need to realize, like, hey, what you set your plan on may not be the plan that you think is in reality, right? And so then I changed it again to I don't even know, something crazy. It was like business finance, or it was some stupid thing. It was just like on a whim. And then I was like sitting there doing promotions for my dad on the side. I'm like, I'm really good in PR. I'm really good at mass marketing. So I changed my degree and went to PR and mass marketing. My fourth time changing wasn't because I just decided that's the path I got to take. It was the experience that I gained that gave me confirmation that, oh my gosh, I'm actually really good at these things. And oh my gosh, even better, I like it. And so I changed my degree there, and I was able to graduate college in 4.5 years after changing 4 years or 4 times. So that was pretty good. So my dad's like, get out of the house. I'm done writing those checks. So yeah, so that's kind of like my career path, right? And it wasn't by any means a path. It was just kind of happened after life experience. And I would say for the young listeners, life experience is really going to define what you're going to do. And of course there's kids that know exactly when they wake up, they're going to be a doctor, or they're going to be an attorney, or I do believe that exists. But for a lot of us who are just so worried about what we're going to do, stop worrying. It'll work out, So that and I wish I could have told myself that when I was younger, but yeah. So that's my jumping around in college, guys. So
awesome.
Yeah, and I think that it's such an important message there, because it's basically saying, when enjoy the ride, or it's about the journey, not just about the destination. And as you go on the journey, even if you're changing majors all these times, or trying to define what my specific career path is, along that journey, you're collecting those life experiences that then influence and sometimes kind of evolve what the destination is and can be. Because now, as long as you're doing something, then you're picking something up along the way that you'll be able to reflect back on and be able to expand upon that, whether it's in a business from an entrepreneurial standpoint, or a job or a career path that you're seeking. So I appreciate that. I think that's good advice.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one of the things that we really do want to talk about too is the element of the family business, because obviously this is such a core part of Extreme Engineering story. And you've been very involved with IAPA over the last several years, specifically hosting sessions about the dynamics and challenges of being in a family business. And I think that that's one of the amazing things about our industry. Yeah, there's a lot of very big corporations, there's for-profits, there's nonprofits, and there's a very large volume of family businesses, both on the operator side and the supplier side. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of those challenges and the topics of the sessions that you lead, as well as kind of what inspired them?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for asking that, Josh. So we started an education session at IAPA, I guess technically 5 years ago. We unfortunately didn't get to have it right in 2020, but we had it's our 4th year. We had a session called Family Matters. And what it was really about was identifying family owned and operated businesses in our industry. And on your point, Josh, there is a lot of people in our industry that even more so that, people didn't realize were family owned and operated, always either originally or still are today. Like, you can go back to Disney. Disney was a family owned and operated business before it got where it is today. Knott's Berry Farm, same. So you look at operators like Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, or the Maury's Piers, or Silverwood in Idaho, or Silver Dollar City. And then you look at manufacturers, you got, JRA, Sally Corp, Extreme Engineering, and the list goes on. The Mock family, right? Whitewater is owned by father son. ProSlide, you got a lot of family owned and operated companies. And I thought for a second, I was like, wow, one, I'm glad I'm not alone, that I can relate to other family-owned business and talk about, my frustrations to my, to advice, to just counsel, to just having someone listen. And then two is like, I know those people and I can call them, but there's a lot of people who don't know these people. Wouldn't it be great if we created a panel of them and put them in front of a mic and had an audience and let them really open up about deep, raw, real issues, things like succession planning, who's going to take over if mom and dad die, or if they even want to, or, what is it like at work, those tensions, as a family unit, and things are more personal because you're family when it should just be about business. And so all those things that I've struggled with has also been the same struggles of other families. And so we were able to create this session, and I didn't know where it was going to go, guys. I didn't know if we were going to have, 2 people or 200 people show up to that session, because there were some heavy hitters that day. I mean, we had some big topic speakers, big CEOs speaking the same hour. I'm like, oh man, I don't think we're going to get the audience. And we had over 400 people the first time, and we had people crying, we had people laughing. We had someone get on a mic and said their parents died unexpectedly, and now they don't know what to do. And they weren't given the tools, and I don't know what to do. And he doesn't know if he wants it. And this is like a 40-year-old business. This is much older than our business. And so you're hearing stories that you're like, oh my God, we need this support mechanism around these families in our industry to help each other. And we find out that there's other families that actually go on retreats that are park owned, and like Fun Spot and Silver Dollar or Silverwood and Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. They all go on this retreat every year, and they all get together as family, and they share their P&Ls. They literally show their books to each other and help each other audit where they need to focus financially, or where they need to adjust, different staff that are family. I mean, things that are just so critical that typically other businesses don't do that, where they're more transparent in family to do this. And so we learned that they had these counseling sessions to specialists that do succession planning. I mean, all sorts of resources that were available that nobody knew. And so the Family Matters session really evolved into a place to go once a year to gather, feedback, to walk away with good resources to improve your business. And so I didn't think it'd go there, guys, to be honest, but we've actually turned this thing into such a successful session that now people are going, hey, can it be a 2-day event? Because you can't cover everything in an hour. And we've had husband wives, which is what we had this year. And that was a very, very different dynamic, having a husband and wife team. And then, years prior, we had, father, son. I was on that panel one year, and we had father, daughters, and we had brothers, we had sisters. So it's interesting, depending the relationship you have in the family business, how different it can or can't be, right? And so we really identified some struggles, and it's been a huge success. And IAPA, I owe them, a lot for giving us this platform and allowing us to have that slot every year to talk about it, because it's a big topic, guys. And I don't think it's ever going to go away. I think our industry is family. You can't spell IAPA, or you can't spell amusement industry without family. So I think it's here to stay. And it really did take off, guys. And I encourage next year you guys, attend it, just to kind of get a feel for what it's about. It gets pretty heated in a good way. I mean, you really hear some raw stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know I've always been intrigued by the session, but for whatever reason, it's at the same time as something else that I'm doing and things like that. And I remember having a conversation with Brian Knoble before one of those.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was a couple of years ago. He's like, "Can you help me tie my tie before this thing?" He wants to look at everything. But and that's a great family, the Knoble family, with all their generations and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm curious if you can talk a little bit more about your journey with your own father, like, and how that dynamic has played out. Because earlier you said when it works, it's great, but it's not all rainbows and sunshine. So are there things you can share about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, how much time do you guys got? Jesus, let's do this. Right before Christmas too. I might not get my gifts that I've been asking for from Dad. Like a raise for one. Yeah, I mean, oh man, I mean, where do we start? You want to hear some challenges, how we overcame that? Is that you're asking, Matt?
Sure. Challenges, wonderful things, whatever you want to share.
Sure. I mean, I think I went into the wonderful things a little bit. I mean, some of the challenges we had, there was a moment, and it's not a proud moment, that my father and our relationship deteriorated in a very, very negative way in the beginning of the business. And to the point where we couldn't even really look at each other. The conversations couldn't be positive after 5-6 more minutes of talking. And I had to isolate myself from him for many, many years. Probably lost 5-6 years of a really healthy relationship with my father due to the struggles of this business, because, and I was younger. And so I didn't know how to really separate the emotional side, the personal side away from the business side. And of course, I think my dad obviously had a better way of doing that, but I think he also, it was very new to him as well. He's never worked with family. I mean, I guess technically he has on a farm. He grew up on a farm, but I'm talking like owning a business, like working with, that close. So we didn't know how to successfully communicate in a good fashion. So it really, I think, took away a big part of our relationship. So that is probably my biggest regret. And I wish we would have had the knowledge base and the tool set that we've learned from these sessions that I just spoke about. If I would have had those things, then I think we could have repaired much quicker and smoother. So that's probably my biggest regret, Matt, Josh, is losing that time with my dad. You'll never get that time back. And for anybody listening on this who are a family-owned business, like, the time you have with your parents and your kids, it's every day is in a way, it's your last day. And then you got to do it again the next day and the next day. And they may not be there the next day. And so time to me is so critical and precious, and something that you should not let go or sacrifice because you're not communicating or you're angry with each other. So that was a big one. And that really took a strain on us personally. I think it took a strain on our business because I just didn't have any heart in it anymore for a while. I moved to Australia for a year, and it wasn't because we wanted to start an expansion. I mean, I was part of it, but I need to get away. I need to get my head clear. And I left for almost 2 years, and spoke to my dad maybe 6 times in 2 years. I'm clear across the world. So, that was not a happy moment. And then, we've had challenges where we had to get family counseling in, a family business counselor in, because we would have these really heated discussions in front of our peers, super inappropriate, things that if you were to say that to your employer or your boss, you'd be fired. I mean, it'd be straight and simple. So there was a maturity part that I had to really grow up quick and understand and treat it differently. And so that was a challenge. Now the strengths, we figured out in a really good way how to stay in our aisle. And what I mean by that is Dad's aisle is the design and the engineering and the really phenomenal breakthroughs there. My aisle is in the branding, the promotions, the partnerships with other suppliers, and bringing those relationships to extreme engineering. And we've had to realize that we're both experts in those fields, and we need to trust each other. Even if we doubt each other on how we're doing it, we need to trust each other. And that's hard. You can say you trust your husband or wife or brother or sister all day long, but there's always going to be something in the back of your mind. Well, I don't know if I wouldn't do it that way. And I don't know if I trust the way you're doing that. And I do that with my wife. It drives her nuts. My wife's 10 times smarter than me. And I always have this thing in the back of my mind, like, why is she doing that? And then it makes sense, right? So that, I think, is something we've done really, really well, staying in our aisle, trusting each other's, relying on each other's talent, and using each other's talent to really grow the business and bring that opportunity where it is. If it isn't for Dad creating the wonderful things and coming up with solutions, I don't have a reason to even be on a podcast or talk or be at IAPA. And it doesn't matter if he designs a great thing. If we don't have an audience for that great thing, or a customer for that great thing, then there's no reason to have a company. And so we had to figure out, okay, how do we take advantage of each other in a great way to move this company forward? And we've been able to do that in the last 10, 15 years. And the reward's been great. I mean, we've grown our company in a substantial way. We have a bigger facility now in Texas. We moved our company to Texas almost 10 years ago. And thank God we did that. You can't operate in California. It just doesn't work here. And we've gotten 16 industry awards. We had another award this year. And so, the accolades, the awards, the growth, all are indicators of the things that we are doing right as a family. But don't get me wrong, we're not perfect. I'm still learning things every day, how to communicate better with my father. I mean, communication, I think, is the hardest thing on the planet. And my degree is in communication, mass marketing communication, and I still have to figure out how to communicate. I think that's something that is always going to be something we're going to have to learn as working with family, or just in the business in general. So I think those are some of the takeaways from great things we've accomplished, guys, and some things that I'm not proud of, that had to, but I learned from that, right? You learn from your mistakes.
Yep.
So those are some things that we had to struggle with, and I think I'm not alone. I think I've had some similar discussions with other family-owned businesses in the industry and outside of the industry, where that tension with your parents working in a company is very unfortunately a very common thing. It's just, how severe is it? Some people can get past it quickly, some can't. Some still haven't for years, longer than me. That just, I know people in our industry, I'm not going to name drop, that they work together, but they do not have a relationship. They almost hate each other, and it's sad. And it's been like that for decades, and it probably will be that for the rest of their life. And that to me is a sad thing, letting a business destroy blood. It just, to me, is so I am blessed and fortunate that I'm not at that level. I have my quirks, but I feel like I'm blessed to have a pretty good relationship in consideration of everything going on. So
yeah.
We appreciate you sharing all that and really opening up. And it's good to see, for those who are listening to this, who perhaps do not have a connection with the family business, to really see the sensitive nature of the operations and really how delicate it can be, over time. And thankfully, you've been able, like you said, to really work together closely over the last several years. So if we were to kind of switch gears just a little bit, you mentioned the new products that have come out, the new, I would say, innovations over the last several years that Extreme Engineering has introduced to the industry, many of which are award-winning. Can you talk a little bit about maybe your innovation process within the company, between you, your father, your team, to be able to come up with these new and very creative designs to be able to introduce to the greater amusement attractions community?
Sure. So we this year came out with, I'd say in the last almost 2 years, we came out with 4 new attractions, and we really entered into the family coaster business. Was one of our big sector, and then the other one that really took off was the fabrication sector for our industry. We become the support mechanism, as you will, for other suppliers, where we'll dig in deep and do behind the scenes and solve problems and value engineer product and then fabricate it for them. And that sector took off quite well for us. In fact, we grew 40% just in that sector alone. And then on the coaster business, I take no credit for this. This is my father and his team of engineers. We got some phenomenal engineers in Florida and Texas, and these guys just came up with this really great solution that, there's huge void in our industry in terms of price and experience on what you can get for an amusement park. And, for example, if you want to get into a big family coaster that all the bells and whistles, you're going to be in it $5, $8, $10 million. And then if you want a really low end, not when I say low end, low cost ride that does, a lot of fun experiences, it's a midweight ride, and those are going to be in the, $200,000, $300,000. So there's not a lot between the 500,000 to the 1.5 million. So we decided we want that market. We want to own. We don't want to be. I don't want to be B&M, but I also don't want to be competing with Zamperla, making these midweight rides or other people that make midweight rides. They're phenomenal at that, and B&M at the top of the Mercedes class of roller coasters is phenomenal over there. So we said, let's figure out how do we provide a really low cost, high end, high thrills, great experience that can be configured in multiple ways. It can be on a budget for many people. It can be a gateway to an FEC where they've always wanted a roller coaster but couldn't afford one. Well, now we got a solution for them. And the mindset kind of came back to the climbing wall back in the 90s, right? Where my dad said, I want to bring the mountain to the people, not the people to the mountain. So he kind of had that mentality with the roller coasters. Like, I want to bring a roller coaster to people who never thought they could afford one, or, they didn't think it could fit. All those challenges, all those hurdles they have, like, okay, how do we overcome that and provide that solution, right? So we were able to do that with the Cloud Coaster. We came out with a family suspended coaster that checks all the boxes from a capacity and experience, from being configurable, being themed, adaptable. And that thing grew and evolved into other ride vehicles, faster track, dark ride integration with dark ride companies. They now want to use our ride vehicle for a dark ride, to interaction with laser tag on it, where you're shooting at sensors right in the ride. So it really turned in and grew into this amazing platform that that speaks to a lot of people in the industry. And so that product has really been a phenomenal product for us. We have like 3 new locations opening next year, and we have several different ride vehicles. We have a surfboard roller coaster that won an award this year. It's the world's only stand-up surfboard roller coaster on the market. So you're literally riding a roller coaster suspended on a surfboard, and when you're taking the turns, the banking is on the ride vehicle, not the track. So it's almost like you're riding a wave when you take the turns. So you actually go up at a pitch and then drop back down. And so it's a phenomenal new ride. And then we came out with a side-by-side vehicle that goes 20, 25 miles an hour, a little bit faster. And those speak to the bigger parks that, look, I need 600-700 people an hour. I want a side-by-side so people can ride together, those kind of things. So we were able to kind of start that coaster division and done quite well with it. It's only been around for about 5 years, and it's evolving even more, taking off more. We're getting more projects with it. So that's been a big growth for us. And then the other growth for us traditionally is adventure rides. That's kind of our core business, where we started, like I said, the mobile climbing wall. So we were able to take that adventure sector of our business and grow that with more climbing attractions, interactive things like parkour. I don't know if you guys know what parkour is, but it's basically like you're running through obstacles and hopping over and all that. Problem with that product, or that activity, is it's high risk. It's not inclusive, right? You have to be very physically able to do it, and you really can't charge for it. I mean, parkour is like people running through the cityscape and hopping over brick walls and stuff. So we said, hey, let's bring that to the masses. Let's bring the mountain to the people, right? So we decided we were going to try that as well with parkour. And so we introduced a new product on the floor at IAAPA this year called Parkour Around. And what it is, it literally has an assist system designed that you get into a harness, and it's computerized, and it actually will, based off your weight, will program the assist to take weight off your body, allowing you to get through an obstacle, because you basically are weightlessness. You're almost like a superhero, jumping long distances, going high up in the air. And so we're giving you that Super Mario experience. We really are on this ride. And so that we introduced, and it's really geared towards like FECs, mega FECs and like adventure parks that are looking to provide this attraction or this type of sport, but make it inclusive. So we made this product where a little child or a big adult, whether you're overweight or you're a champion and you can run high speeds, it doesn't matter. Everybody can experience the same thing. And so this is something we've introduced this year as well. So we're really excited for 2022. We have a lot of new rides and a lot of new services whether it's manufacturing for other suppliers, or adventure rides for adventure parks and FECs, or roller coasters for theme parks. So we feel very blessed to be in 3 different markets, and they've all done really well for us. And next year, I think next year is going to be a good year for a lot of us. I think next year is going to be the recovery year, where we're all getting orders back on a plate and more opportunity back on board. So I feel again blessed that we have 3 market sectors to go after, instead of, hey, all our eggs are in one basket. That's what you do. So that's one thing I love about our company is we're dynamic, and we can take on very different things. And in fact, part of the reason my father won't be here for Christmas is we have 3 shifts going on, and the prog has to deliver on the 23rd. What's that, tomorrow or Thursday?
Yeah.
Tomorrow. And it's a manufacturing project. It's for another supplier. It's going to Kennedy Space Center, and but not having that market sector, this year, typically for most people, it's kind of slow, and so it's great that we've, expanded our markets to offer different services that keep us busy all year round. And that's a great thing to have. That's what you want to have. And so, I think next year for us, it's not going to be about the eggs in all one basket. Here you go, you got to do that. It's more of like, okay, geez, where can we focus our resources with, given the opportunity? But it's a good problem to have, but it also is kind of challenging, right? Because you get one big order from any of that, you're kind of shut down. You got to focus on that, and you got to unfortunately say, sorry, I can't help you to others. And so we're trying to juggle that right now, is strategize how are we going to be able to do everything for everyone in a short amount of time. So that's our next step. So
we just need more Phils in the world. That's what we need.
Right? No, more Jeffs. Mr. Wilson Senior is what we need. So
Well, Phil, we are getting close to our end time here, but I have one question that we didn't even talk about beforehand. If you could pick your favorite non-extreme engineering attraction out there, what would that be?
So my wife flew out for her 40th birthday party this year in Orlando. And my great friend, one of my dear friends, John McReynolds from Universal, he got us he really took care of Megan. And at the park, we were able to experience so many different rides and services. And so we rode the Velociraptor for the first time. And my wife Megan hasn't really ridden a lot of roller coasters. And so we decided to ride the front row of the Velociraptor together. And we had and what's great about our industry is all of Megan's friends are like my friends in the industry, and they're better friends with her. And she's an attorney. She doesn't even go to theme parks or all these things. But so we had like 15 people celebrating her, and we ride the Velociraptor, or the Velocicopter. Sorry. And I think and I've been on a lot of coasters all over the world, a lot of theme parks. I think to date, that is the best, hands down, roller coaster I've ever ridden. That launch coaster is phenomenal. It's built by Intamin, who are good friends of ours, and they did a phenomenal job on that ride. And I can't, I don't know if you guys ridden Velocico. I'm sure you had, but I mean, tell me that's not an amazing ride. At least top 5 of your rides, right? It has to be.
Absolutely.
And, I think what's the Mako? Is it Mako? The one SeaWorld?
SeaWorld.
Yeah, that one I thought was like the best thing ever. And then I got on Velocicoaster, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And Universal was so smart to put that ride in. It is a phenomenal ride. So yeah, that's my favorite ride. So
awesome.
Yeah, but what I don't like about that ride is the lines to get on that ride. It's awful. Because everyone wants to ride it. So if they could fix that, they could fix the queuing, then it'd be the best ride in the world. So
but with that said, the queue itself is pretty cool, especially I think like the last section before you go into the station, where you kind of see the story of it, and that it's the theme of the ride is that it is a roller coaster. That I actually thought was hilarious. It's like, oh right. Jurassic World is a theme park, so they would put a roller coaster in the Raptor paddock.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think on your point, like the whole queuing, the queue experience at theme parks gosh, they've done so much better, right? So they kind of like, you're kind of immersed and keeping entertained as you wait. Because the old days, it's just chain and, pipe and drape or whatever it is, and you're just sitting there waiting to get to the front. And now it's nice that the theming really starts when you walk into the entry, than when you're on the ride. And that I have always thought was so impressing to me, because it keeps getting better and better and better. Is it's not just, you don't experience it once you're sitting in that seat, you're experiencing it while you're in queue. So that I think helped, but they still need to get rid of that 45 minutes or an hour queue. So I'm just saying. So
I feel like we could easily go on a tangent and just talk about our favorite roller coasters, which we've done before on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
But there is another question we want to ask you here, and this has to do with your bio on the Extreme Engineering website. And just to read this quick excerpt from it, it says, when you meet Phil, chances are you will be strolling on scooters in China, crashing beer gardens in Vietnam wearing a lederhosen, exploring hidden rooftop bars with a spa, or mingling at a nice restaurant with a view discussing life. Two-part question. The first is, can we be best friends? Like,
sure.
that just sounds awesome. Like,
you be careful what you're asking for there, dude.
The second part is, if there's any experience or story that you love sharing that your time and your travels have led you to.
Oh, there's so many. I need to have like a crazy story blog with. So I've gotten to some pretty fun shenanigans in the traveling with IAAPA. There's been a lot of funny moments and a lot of just unexpected moments, and taking off with friends and just having a great time. And I would say one of the most recent funny moments was, we had a post tour in Vietnam after IAAPA Asia. And we went to Bonnet Hills up in the mountains. It's a theme park up in the mountains in Vietnam, in Da Nang, I think it's Da Nang. And you take this big funicular or trolley to the top. And you guys probably seen this park. It has those iconic hands coming out of the mountain, and you walk across. That's Bonnet Hills. It's a beautiful spot. But the park is it's just so random. You get in this park in the middle of Vietnam, and it's German themed, like in sections of it. Like, this is strange. It's like German themed. So they have a whole scaled version of Germany in their perspective of what Germany is. I don't think they've actually been to Germany, but you get there, and then they have this massive beer garden, right? And it so happened to be Oktoberfest the day we were at the park. So my good friend Jerome, and he's in our industry, and Jerome is from the Netherlands. He's Dutch, and so he and I was like, oh, let's go get some lederhosens, and we walk into the Oktoberfest. And so we were able to rent cast member clothing. We got cast member clothing, so we look like cast members. So we walk into the beer garden, totally unexpected. There's hundreds of people on this post tour, and the GMs of the park saw us and allowed us to go on the main stage with the band. And we're dancing in lederhosens, drinking steins of beer in front of thousands of people. And it was super unexpected. Everybody was like, where's Phil and Jerome? And all of a sudden they look over, and there we are, just dancing and drinking. And man, people from IAAPA are like, literally, this is like one of the top 5 craziest moments ever of IAAPA, like, members. And we're taking photos with like random people that think we're like cast members, and we're just, we looked down, our beers full again, because the bartender came on stage and filled up our beers. We were there for an hour, just singing and dancing. And and then we got approached by the general manager, and he's all, hey, so you guys going to be in Vietnam like next week? Because we could really use you and Jerome on stage. It'd be great. Can we have you guys? And they were serious. We were like thinking they were joking. And so we kind of like tried to trade them for a hotel accommodation at the Intercontinental, which is like the top #1 hotel in the world, apparently. So we were bartering a vacation to work in lederhosens and drink beer, which is an amazing job. If that's all you have to do is drink beer and be in a lederhosen. So we worked on that. The plan did not go through, but we were very close to getting a free stay at the Intercontinental to be in a lederhosen. So that was the craziest story. And then the other story, just real short, was we were in Shanghai, and we found a rooftop bar with a spa on top of the bar. And we all got in the spa with a bunch of people from all over the world, just our feet down, like our legs down. and we were singing different drinking songs from around the world with people from Japan, from the Ukraine. I mean, all their weird chant, not weird, but just their cultural different chant drinking songs. And then one of my good friends in the industry convinced everybody we were twins, twin brother and sister, and that if I left, I would break out in a rash. And so I had to be next to her the whole time. Otherwise, I'd break out in a rash, and I have anxiety disorder. And they had this whole story on me. So I'm sitting there drinking with them, and everyone's laughing at me. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm hilarious. I'm funny. And then I find out later, no, they thought that I was breaking out in a rash because my twin sister, who was not my twin sister, was convincing everyone that I had this like rash disorder. And so that's basically in a nutshell. As fast, you got to be with me. I mean, to experience some of these strange things, guys. I mean,
if we can,
right? We look forward to that.
There's all sorts of weird stuff. Tuk-tuks and Indonesia that, we raced other tuk-tuk people, and then we bet money on each other. I mean, just weird stuff that honestly is stuff that's just part of why we are in this industry, is to goof off and have fun and enjoy everything and just do things unexpected. Yeah. And that's why we're here, right? I mean, we have to have fun in our industry. Otherwise, you're in the wrong industry.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're not having fun, there's something wrong. That's for sure. But, Phil, that actually goes back to your whole account of your journey through those different majors and things. And if you had taken a different path and maybe not even worked for the family business and gotten involved with IAPA, none of that would happen. Right. Something else may have happened in your life that would have been crazy, but all those things, it all leads to kind of where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And where we're going, right? And see what happens next.
See what happens next.
I'm just glad we're not on an accounting blog discussion about tax returns or new tax
That's our
codes.
next conversation.
Yeah. You didn't know this is the Accounting Pros podcast?
Oh, geez. Yeah. You sure you want me to do your taxes, guys? You might have to pay more.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a different topic for a different day. But Phil, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you again so much for being here. If people wanted to get in touch with you or learn more about extreme engineering, where would you send them?
I would definitely send them to the website, extremeengineering.com. If they want to get in touch with me, my email is very easy to remember. It's just my name, Phil, Phil, and it's at extremeengineering.com. And if you need my cell phone, you got to hang out me first at the top of the roof bar, and then I'll give it to you. So
my new goal: get Phil's cell phone number. That's
Hey, don't feel privileged or Josh. It's on the website. So
Any final thoughts, words of wisdom as we wrap up here?
I mean, I don't have any words of wisdom, but I maybe words of encouragement is that I think the three of us experiencing IAPA firsthand, and it was 2 years, and I really want to say that we're not in the amusement business; we're in the people business, and it's so critical to experience the stories I'm telling you guys. These weird, fun stories. Those are all things you share with people in person, and I think getting back in person, getting back to shows, going to these post tours. I think that is something that I am encouraged and looking forward to for 2022. I think all of us will be doing more of that than being, virtually on screens, having meetings or virtual trade shows. I think that's going to be there, but it's going to be a thing of the past, at least for our industry, because we know how critical it is to be in person. And so my encouragement for the new year, guys, is I think we're there. I think we're on the road to recovery. I think COVID's here to stay, but we're not going to let it keep us from doing the things that we love, which is being in person and also moving forward. So that's my encouragement, not wisdom, but that's my encouragement for everyone. So 2022, I think it's going to be great for everybody.
Excellent. Well, we are looking forward to that and looking forward to seeing you in person the next time we get a chance to do that. So again, Phil, thank you so much for your time today. And for everybody out there watching and listening, just remember, we are all Attraction Pros. Thanks for listening to the Attraction Pros podcast.
Make sure to subscribe so you can tune in when new episodes release. And even better, please leave us a review on iTunes.
For more information, visit attractionpros.com.